The storm didn't begin with thunder or lightning. It began with silence. A kind of silence that didn't just hush the room but press against it, seeped into the floorboards, settled over the guests like a weighted shroud. The house on Whitmore Lane, a sprawling Victorian relic hemmed in by skeletal trees and flaking fences, had always been prone to moodiness. But that evening, as the clock in the sitting room struck 7 p.m. for the first time, something shifted. Lena felt it first. It wasn't the way the wind scraped against the windows or how the antique chandelier above them creaked in its chains. It was subtler than that. A twinge in her stomach, a quickening of breath, a whisper of wrongness. She stood apart from the others, glass of red wine untouched in her hand, gaze fixed on the heavy mahogany clock. Its hands trembled slightly as they aligned perfectly. 7 o'clock. A sharp chime rang out. Once, twice, 7 times. Laughter echoed from the kitchen. Marcus was telling that story again, the one about the broken elevator in Bucharest. Annie, already tipsy, cackled like she hadn't heard it a dozen times before. Jonathan leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, eyes gleaming with amusement. Sarah clinked glasses with Paul, her fiancé murmuring something low and intimate, normal, comforting, familiar. But Lena's skin crawled. The electricity flickered. Just once, barely noticeable. The wine in her glass rippled, as though the house had exhaled. She blinked. "Hey, you good?" Sarah's voice, soft but weighted, reached her from across the room. Lena forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired, maybe. Storm's giving me a headache." The others continued, oblivious, as the first drop of rain struck the window. Then another. Soon, a relentless tapping, like fingernails drumming a hollow shell. Dinner was late, though no one seemed to mind. The candles on the long dining table bled wax onto lace runners, casting distorted shadows across the walls. Conversation shifted from travel to childhood fears, then to dreams, half-remembered, feverish things. "I had this dream once," Annie said, slurring slightly. "I was stuck in a hotel hallway. Every door led back to the same corridor, like I was running in circles. Eventually, I just stopped opening them." No one laughed. Marcus raised his eyebrows. "That's cheerful." Annie grinned, but her fingers trembled as she lifted her fork. The clock in the sitting room chimed again. Lena frowned. "Wait, what time is it?" 7. Paul said, checking his watch. She turned toward the grandfather clock. The hands had not moved, still pointing to 7, still trembling. "No," Lena said softly. "That's not right. We sat down to eat over an hour ago." Marcus chuckled. "Time flies when you're drinking, I guess." "No," she insisted, voice sharpening. "It's not just that. I heard it chime 7 earlier. A beat of silence. The rain hammered harder. Maybe it's broken," Jonathan offered. "Old house, old clocks." But Lena couldn't shake the certainty nodding in her gut, the kind that told her something was watching, listening, waiting. She didn't eat much after that. Later, when she wandered into the sitting room alone, glass still full, the storm outside had grown into a beast. Trees lashed against one another. The power flickered again. The TV screen buzzed alight for a split second, though no one had touched the remote. Static and shadows. The clock struck 7 p.m. Again, Lena stepped back. The room was colder now, the air thicker. The walls seemed closer than before. And in the faint reflection of the clock's glass, just behind her shoulder, something moved. The next time the clock chimed 7, no one pretended it hadn't happened before. The storm had swallowed the household. The power was out now, really out, not flickering. And the only light came from the candles, their flames dancing wildly like they were panicking too. Shadows leapt across the walls, changing shape, clinging to corners where light refused to touch. Marcus was the first to say it out loud. This is the 3rd time it's hit 7. His voice cut through the silence like a blade. No jokes, no nervous laughter, just a heavy breath of 8 people realizing they'd all been waiting for someone else to confirm it. And he muttered, "What the hell is going on?" Jonathan, always the rational one, rose from his chair. "Okay, Maybe it's just a storm messing with the power. Maybe our phones or watches are wrong. 2. Let's check. They all pulled out their phones. Blank screens. Batteries that had been full hours ago now read 0. No signal. No service. Paul's phone flashed briefly. A single second's life. The time read 7 p.m. Then it went black. Lena's throat tightened. This isn't just a power. This is something else. Sarah's voice trembled. Something like, "What?" No one answered. In the hours, minutes that followed, they searched the house. All of them, room by room. It became ritualistic, as though proving the kitchen still existed, or the upstairs bathroom still had a mirror, could somehow anchor them to reality. But something had changed. The house wasn't right. The rooms looked the same. Furniture was where it should be, but things were off. Angles subtly wrong. A hallway too long. A door that opened to a wall. The guest bedroom window now faced a brick wall instead of the yard. And the air, thick, still, no more wind, no more rain, just the sound of breathing and the echo of the last chime, still ringing in their ears. They regrouped in the sitting room, huddled together. The candles flickered low. Paul rubbed his hands through his hair. "It's like we're trapped in an hourglass," he said. But instead of sand falling, time just keeps circling back. "Like Annie's dream," Lena whispered. Annie looked up sharply. "I didn't mean for that to mean anything." "Still," said Marcus, "we can't ignore the fact that something is wrong here. We should leave. Now." Jonathan was already at the door, yanking it open. Darkness. Not night. Not the absence of light. But darkness. Thick and absolute. A void without sound or end. The porch was gone. The street. The trees. Only black. He shut the door slowly. "Nope," he said. "We're not going anywhere." An hour passed. Or it didn't. The same conversations began to repeat themselves. Someone would say something about the storm, about the food, about the damn elevator in Bucharest, and the others would freeze, recognizing it word for word from earlier. Sarah spilled her wine again. Paul made the same joke about doomsday preppers again. And every time the clock struck 7 o'clock, they all felt it. A throb behind the eyes, a pressure in the ears, like a migraine waiting to bloom. Lena stood suddenly. "We're doing something wrong." The others looked at her, faces pale, drawn, shadowed. "What do you mean?" Annie asked, voice hoarse. "We're stuck because of us," Lena said, words tumbling faster now, like they were being pulled from her. "It's not the storm. It's not the house. We did this." Jonathan scoffed. "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" She turned to him. "Then tell me why every one of us said the same things again. Move the same way. As if we're sleepwalking through this hour like it's a script." No one spoke. Lena stepped to the clock. Reached out. The wood was cold. The glass colder. She whispered, "Something's watching us. Or waiting. Until we understand." And behind her, the clock began to chime. Again. 7. Slow. Inevitable. Final. By the 4th, or was it 5th? Cycle, they stopped trying to pretend they weren't losing their minds. The hour no longer reset with subtlety. Now it snapped back, violent and jarring, like the cracking of bone. One moment they'd be mid-sentence or halfway up the stairs, and the next, flash, back in the sitting room, back at the table, back to candlelight and cold wine, and the eternal echo of a chime. Lena woke screaming once, though she hadn't been asleep. No one had. Not really. They'd tried. God, they'd tried. Blankets, warm tea, lying still with eyes clamped shut. But time didn't allow sleep. It plucked them up just before consciousness could sink in, like a cruel hand dragging them back to the start. And every time, the clock struck 7. Always 7. Marcus had stopped talking. He sat by the window now, watching the black outside. Not just night, no stars, no rain, no reflection in the glass. Just pure, endless absence. When spoken to, he would flinch like a startled animal and whisper, "Don't look too long." It looks back. Annie cried quietly, curled up on the sofa. Her mascara had long since run. Streaks down her face like cracks in porcelain. It's us, she repeated, again and again. It's punishing us. We're being punished. For what? Paul snapped. We didn't do anything. No one answered. But Lena remembered things now. Little things. A sharp word said and never apologized for. The way she dismissed Annie's anxiety last month, calling it drama. The way Jonathan had cheated on his last partner. An open secret, unspoken. The way Marcus had hit a dog once with his car and never stopped. It was as if the house, or whatever this was, peeled them open layer by layer, forced them to look. And with every reset, the cracks deepened. The worst was Sarah. She had changed the most. Her skin looked wrong. Pale, yes, but tight, like something was pressing from the inside. Her eyes stayed open too long, blinking too slow. She'd sit for whole cycles without speaking, just watching the others with detached calm, as though she were waiting for something. Lena caught her whispering once, when the others were scattered through the house. They don't remember. Not really. But I do. I do. When Lena asked what she meant, Sarah only smiled. That night, again, if night could be trusted, they tried breaking the clock. It was Jonathan's idea. He said if time kept resetting from that damn thing, maybe destroying it would free them. He took a fire iron from the hearth and swung it hard, the way someone might swing at a venomous snake. The metal struck the clock's glass and bounced off. No crack, not even a smudge. He tried again, harder, again, nothing. And then, snap, they were back. Same room, same candles, same chime. Jonathan screamed, not a yell, an animal sound, raw and primal, punched from the lungs. He dropped the iron and fell to his knees, shaking, muttering, "It's not real! It's not real! None of this is real!" Sarah stood over him, watching, her head tilted. "It's not the clock," she said softly. "It's the hour. We're inside it, like flies in amber. Then how do we break out?" Lena demanded. Sarah looked at her, something flickering in her expression. "We don't break it. We confess." That word hung in the air like smoke. Confess what? And he whispered. But deep down, Lena already knew. And in the reflection of the clock, as it began to chime again, she saw not just herself, but all of them, huddled like ghosts, fractured, with shadows behind their eyes and blood on their hands they hadn't noticed until now. The house was quieter now. Not the tense, suffocating quiet from before, but a stillness that felt expectant, like the final pause in a breath, waiting to be exhaled. Lena sat alone in the sitting room. The others were scattered in the house, worn thin by repetition, by time that refused to move forward. But something had changed since Sarah had spoken that word. Confess. The moment Sarah said it, Lena felt something shift, not in the house, but in herself. A sliver of air, a flicker of warmth, a way through. She didn't know what would happen if she said it aloud, but she knew with a certainty deeper than reason that hiding from the truth had fed the loop, that their guilt, their buried selves, had been cement, anchoring them. She stood. The others came slowly, pulled by some shared instinct. Marcus from the window, Annie from the hallway, eyes rimmed red. Paul and Jonathan, hollow-eyed but listening. Even Sarah, still pale, still changed, but now, her eyes held something softer. "I think it wants us to face it," Lena said. Her voice didn't shake. "All of it. Ourselves." Jonathan looked at her with a bitter smile. "You want us to make peace with being horrible people? With all the things we've done and swept under the rug?" "No," she said quietly. "I think it wants us to acknowledge it, so it can let us go." They fell silent. Then, slowly, Marcus spoke. "There was a cat, once. My neighbor's. It was always in my garden, digging up the roses. One day, I threw something at it. It didn't come back. The next week, I found it dead in the hedge. I never told them. I told myself it wasn't me." His voice cracked, but it was... The candlelight flared. "Annie," barely above a whisper, "I made up a rumor in college, just to hurt someone who hurt me first. But it ruined her life. I laughed about it. I said she deserved it, but she didn't." Another flare. Jonathan stared at the carpet. I lied. I cheat. I've always told myself I'm just being honest with what I want. But that's not honesty. That's cowardice. One by one, they spoke of betrayals, of selfishness, of the parts of themselves they hated. Things never said, things never faced. And finally, Lena. I almost let my sister die, she said. Not literally, but she was drowning in depression, and I didn't answer the phone. I was tired. I was angry. She didn't try again after that. She lived, but she never trusted me again. She took a breath. I've never forgiven myself. The silence after was total. And then, crack, the sound of wood splitting. All eyes turned to the grandfather clock. A long fracture crawled across its glass face. The hands trembled, then moved. 7:01 p.m. The candles went out one by one, with soft puffs of smoke. Light returned. Real light, not candlelight, but electricity, lamps humming, bulbs glowing. The storm was gone. Rain had stopped. Outside the windows, the world had returned. Trees still, street lamps flickering on, the sky an endless deep indigo. Time had begun again. No one spoke for a long time. It was Sarah who finally moved, brushing a hand over her cheek as if confirming her own skin. The tension in her face had faded. She looked human again. Tired, but whole. What now? And he whispered. Lena looked at the broken clock. Now we live with it, and we live better. They didn't celebrate. There was no applause, just a quiet relief, deep and cleansing, like breath drawn after drowning. They left the house on Whitmore Lane that night, one by one, under a sky that seemed impossibly wide. None of them looked back. Time would never give them back what was lost, but it had given them something else, a second chance. And this time, they would not waste it.